I'm Maynard Hughes, and welcome to First and Foremost, where I invite you to follow me on my journey from being a framing, roofing, and siding contractor for 20 years to becoming a leading builder in Central VA. Welcome back to First and Foremost. This is our Build Your Own Shed series, where we show you how to build your own shed from start to finish. Today in the Build Your Own Shed series, we're going to concentrate on exterior walls. First step in building your exterior wall is cut your bottom and top plate. We have to mark the layout and adhere these plates to the floor in a straight fashion so that we can square and mark these up properly. We already have our lines installed as we referred to earlier. So we're going to make sure that we're 3.5 inches over the line. Which is exactly the width of the wall that's going to be butting into this wall. And we're going to tack it down all the way on the red line that we've snapped to make sure this is straight. It's really important in exterior walls that you attach the bottom plate first and make sure that it's really straight. The next thing we're going to do is transfer the layout onto the upper and lower plates. Now we're going to be working with a 16-inch on center layout for the exterior walls because that's what requires our building code here in Central VA. We have a window in the middle of this wall, so we're going to look for the center, which we have 8'11", so that'll be 4'5½". Now when you go to mark windows or doors, you need to remember on all building plans, they always say the width first and the height second. So this particular window is a 2'4", so that's 2'4" wide, 5 foot tall. Being that we're 2'4", which is 28 inches, put my tape on 14 inches, mark the edge there, and the other side of the window. You always want to mark your windows and doors first, because being that you have that 16-inch layout, if there is a stud that lands in the middle or on the edge of your window layout, you may fill up your wall plate with a bunch of marks and make it hard to read. So I always like to mark my windows and doors first. And I do that by putting a solid stud X mark on the outside and our support stud that's in the middle, jack, with a J. So as you can see, we finished our layout on the bottom and top plates. So the plate that's loose, we can now remove it without turning it around. Do not turn it around. You're not a samurai ninja. Put it back the way you got it. Walk straight up to the top. Honestly, if you're near a stairwell hole, put some plywood over it. So most key thing here on the bottom plate is we've attacked it straight on the red chalk line that we popped early this morning. So we're going to always adhere the bottom plate first to the studs, being that that's where we start straight. We want to nail there. Wood has a tendency to stay how you build it. So if you build things out of whack, crooked, up higher than one end than the other, they'll tend to want to stay that way or return that way. So it's a good idea to have things flat, straight, and start from the bottom to the top. Now we're here. Bruh. We want to put 2 nails in each one of our studs about 3/4 from the edge of the plate. You don't want to nail really close to the edge. It'll just splinter the wood. Now in this particular wall, we have what you call a T plate, which you may not or may have that in your shed. In ours, there's not going to be. But being that we're trying to take from our residential home footage to show you that what you can do in your house and what you're capable of, we have to put a T in this particular wall. So after the bottom is secured, you can start from one side to the other. and nail the top plate. Again, we are working with wood. They have crowns, cups, bows. So you need to tell that wood where it's got to go. Now, same thing goes for the top plate. You need to make sure you're nailing away from the edges, nice and solid, and get that down. At this point, we're installing the window header. As you can see, it falls directly onto our jack support. I like to nail one side, and if there's a stud that's really close to this, kind of push it out of the way. You want to get this thing pressed down, force that wood where it needs to go. Pull the stud up, and get you a good, nice, straight nail right in the side. Pick it up, get it back straight. And there we go. Now we're shooting with 1.31 inch width, 3 inch long, 12 penny nails. So all that being said, you really want to keep your hand away from the edge if you're using these pneumatic guns, okay? You have a 3 inch nail. Sometimes there's knots and crooks and twists in these things, and if the nail hits it just right, because it's going at high speed, it will curve out. You can catch one in the finger. I've seen some really crazy stuff over the years. So just try to keep your hand back just a little bit so you're not even in danger, and it's not a possibility at all. Now, once we have all of that nailed off, we have our bottom crypts installed. This is our sill plate. Don't try to pull all that layout. You don't need to spend all the time. Just line it up with your jack. Make sure you're flush. Transfer that layout exactly the way it is on the bottom. And then when you stick it in there, it's already ready for you to go. I like to toe nail this as well as nail it into the bottom crypt so that the wall or window doesn't pull away from each other. As openings in a home, whether it be a roof or wall, is where a lot of moisture and vapor has a chance to come through. Those are going to be our areas that we really need to have secured well. After the bottom crypts, windows, and all the studs are nailed, we're going to install the top crypts. Cripples, I've heard them called a ton of different things. Now, I always like to put one directly above my jack stud, and that is because when you're nailing window casing, plywood, or anything, you tend to follow that line up, and it makes sure that you adhere that wall sheathing to something solid behind. Now, Julian has already cut my top plate, which is our secondary top plate that allows us to overlap incoming walls to tie them in together and creates more strength. So the walls that butt into these, in this situation, are 2x4 walls, which are actually not 4 inches wide, they're 3.5. So when you cut this secondary plate up here above, you want to mark the 3.5 for the wall that comes into it, plus a little bit extra so that you don't have to fight to do that install later. So instead of marking 3.5 exactly, I'd mark 3 5/8. Give yourself a little bit of play there as far as level goes. That's why you don't want to be that tight there. Now pull this up and down as needed. Remember, don't be scared to tell the wood what to do. If you need to have a nail, add a nail. If you need to use your hammer to beat it down, whatever the case may be, you can do that and make sure that wood goes where you need it to go. You want to nail these secondary plates close to where the studs are, being that electricians and plumbers and everybody like that will not be drilling directly over your stud. They would come through the space in between, and again, it helps them not to tear their bits up. Super expensive, and they'll definitely appreciate it. Now that we have all our window jacks, headers, studs, and corners and top plate installed, it's time for the next important step. We're going to square the wall. This is one of the most important steps because if you don't do this exactly right, it could throw the whole part of your shed off level. So being that we have the bottom plate already secured and we're sure that it's straight on our chalk line that we've already popped, we're going to hook the bottom corner of the of the wall, right on the outside of the plate. We're gonna measure all the way to the other outside corner where we have exactly 12 foot. If we've measured that side, I will also grab this corner. We're gonna see where we're at here, and we have 11 foot 11. So we had 12 foot over there, 11 foot 11 right here. That means we're gonna need to look for 11, 11 and a half. And that's exactly square. So hold that still, don't let it move. This time when you put your tacks in it, you do not want to sink the head. And just go back and double check to make sure it's not off a 16th or anything. Perfect, 11, 11 and a half. Okay, now that we're all square and we're tagged down, nothing's gonna move. I think I'll throw one more in it over here, being that we're flexing a little bit. It's time to install the wall sheathing. Now, one of the most important things about installing wall sheathing is that you need to nail the perimeter, the outer edge of the plywood with about a 3 to 4 inch spacing if you're using the Staples and the Metabo 7/16 inch stapler that I'm using here. So 3 inches around the perimeter. In the field, which we call the studs that are in the middle of the sheet of plywood, can go to about a 5 to 8 inch gap in between nailing. Let's put it on, Julian, let's go. Also, we have the marks from our window that are going to be covered up a little later by the sheathing. So we'd like to transfer these marks above, so once we're covered up, we can actually see them. It'll save us a little time and accuracy in popping the lines to cut out the rough opening for the window. Another key step into starting your plywood, whatever side of the wall you start pulling your layout from, that's the side you need to start the sheathing from. And that's because when you mark the 16 inch on center layout, you want that sheet to break in the middle so that there's no unnailed or unsecured edges to the plywood. Now, just like with the wall studs, we'd like to attack these on the bottom first. Get it nice and flush. Tack the bottom. Come over here to the other side. Tack the bottom straight. Come up to the top. This will straighten out any bows or crooks or twists that are naturally in the wood. Finally, tack off that outer corner. And so now we have our first piece installed. And if you'll notice right here, you can see our mark that we transferred up from the window jack. Can't really see the bottom at this moment, but we'll get a shot of that in a minute. Right here at the bottom, we also cross where the windowsill goes on the plywood, so we have a measurement to pull from there. Just slide this sheathing over. Now, when you butt two sheets together, whether it's wall or roof, you want to leave a little bit of a gap, about a 1/16 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch is optimal. And that is because the sheathing does expand and contract. And don't step in the middle of the window, please. Thought I was a goner. So now we've nailed our sheathing completely off, and those marks that we have on the upper side of the window there and down here below the plate, we pop that from up to bottom without having to measure because we already pre-marked them. Same thing here. Mark aluminum vest. Okay, so now that we have our pre-measure mark here as well, I'll pull up from the bottom. We have 23 1/8. We'll mark that again right here. And we know our rough opening was 2'4" by 5 foot, so I'll be able to mark that 5 foot right there. Check what that is, 12 5/8. And now we know exactly where to cut. Okay, now that the sheathing is completely installed and we've checked to make sure our edges are nice and straight, we're gonna attach the Tyvek or house wrap from the top down. We're gonna let that overlap, whether it's on a shed or on a house. You would like that bottom to hang down so you can go all the way down to the joist as vapor and moisture comes through. That way this will shed it all the way out and it'll never make it to the raw wood. We also have an adjoining wall that's coming from behind here. So we're gonna let this overhang about 4 to 6 inches. I prefer on the higher side, 6 inches. We'll tack that top off and you can run this edge all the way down and straighten this up first. Just tack it off all the way down straight at the top. Once your top is on, you can go to the bottom and pull it tight. Now throughout the middle there, you'll be able to kind of nail sporadically, but around your edges, you really want to make sure you're kind of close to the edge of the window. Remember not to step through the window hole. When you get towards the top, do not put any tacks at that position because we need to cut for our flashing that goes above. So I like to find the corner and go about a 45-degree angle in, find the other quarter, 45-degree angle in, extend that up on the same angle and just join them two. And we're gonna pull that up. Now, just like in the window install video, you wanna make sure that house wrap goes all the way to the inside. Let's really protect against that moisture. Tell you what, an August day in central VA, ain't no humidity like it anywhere else, that's for sure. To get a more thorough detail of how to cut and install this Tyvek, check out our window install video in the How to Build Your Shed series. Apply a thin layer of caulking to the upper edge of the vinyl underneath the house wrap or Tyvek so it goes directly towards the sheathing. Once you have that on, drop the Tyvek back down. You can take your speed square, block of wood, anything that you can find next to you. And in this case, I'm definitely going to use a block of wood towards the edge, not to get all that yucky on my speed square and in my pouch. Okay, once you have that on, you're going to need to install some Tyvek tape to the 45-degree angle of the house wrap. Make sure you press that down on all the edges so it's nice and secure. Once you have the tape on, roll your flashing up. You want to get it nice and high above the window so you have room when the nail and flat edge goes against the plywood. Now that we have our house wrap and everything done, we're going to lift this wall. We've installed some support blocks outside so it can't kick out and go off the wall. Have some braces close by. These don't have to be perfectly installed right now as far as level, but it is nice to get them really, really close. You can do that by putting an L square or a speed square flush on the plywood, letting somebody with a side view tell you when it's good to go. Now that we have it braced off and it's not any issues with it falling off the floor, we're going to make sure that the wall is 3.5 inches past the line. And also on our red chalk line that we nailed to at the beginning. Now that's it, guys. We've completed our exterior wall install. Make sure you check out the other videos in this Build Your Shed series. Drop us a line down in the comment section of what you'd like to see coming forward, and we'll try to make that happen. Until the next episode. You guys know the deal. Subscribe, hit that like button, click the notification bell if you'd like to see more videos just like this one in the future.